This week, I want to tell you a rather strange tale. One summer evening, about 5 years ago, at about 9:45 p.m., the owner of a beautiful country cottage was just leaving his front door to take his dog for a walk. Just as he was about to go through his front gate, he noticed a young man of about 25 coming down the lane towards the house. He looked very pale and very sad. The old man asked him if he could help, but the young man just stood there, not exactly looking at him, rather looking through him and past him. He didn't say a word, and then after a few moments, he just turned and walked away slowly the way he'd just come. The old man was slightly bemused by this event, but he didn't think too much about it. The only thing which concerned him was the way his dog was behaving, because as soon as the dog had seen the young man, the hairs on his back had stood on end, and he'd cowered behind his master, growling quietly. As soon as the man had disappeared round the bend in the lane, the dog had returned to normal. Well, anyway, the old man continued on his walk, and when he returned, he told his wife what had occurred. They then put it out of their minds. The next night, the old man again left the house at 9:45 p.m. to take his dog for its nightly walk. And again, he saw the young man approaching the gate, the same look of sadness on his pale face. And again, his dog became frightened and fretful. Well, concerned that the young man was up to no good, the old man challenged him. But once more, he got no reply. The young man just stared at the cottage front door and then turned away and walked slowly back down the lane. The next night, the old man determined to get some sort of answer from the young man if he saw him again. And sure enough, on the dot of 9:45 p.m., the old man opened the front door to go out. And once again, he, and this time his wife as well, saw the young man coming slowly down the lane towards their cottage. So they stood there on the front step and waited to see what the young man would do. He reached the gate to the cottage and stopped. Then he turned slowly and looked at the couple standing by the front door. The old man challenged him to tell them what he wanted. At first, the young man said nothing, and then in a voice which seemed to come from a great distance, it was so low, he asked the couple to call the police, as there had been a car accident about half a mile down the lane. He then added a sentence which seemed to make no sense at first. He asked the couple to tell Sally that Michael had gone, but he would see her soon. And then something happened which made them doubt the evidence of their own eyes. The young man said very quietly, "I'm sorry, I must go," and simply faded away before their eyes. At this moment, they became aware of their dog. Now remember, all this time the animal had been cowering behind its master, growling. But the moment the young man had disappeared, he began to leap about in a frenzy of excitement. Taken by surprise, the old man lost his grip on the dog's lead, and it haired off through the gate and down the lane, but in the opposite direction to normal. The old man set off in pursuit. It seemed to be playing a game with its master. Just as it looked as if the old man would be able to catch hold of the lead, the dog ran on ahead a few yards and turned as if waiting for its master to catch up. And then it would do it again. And this went on for about half a mile. Then, as the old man rounded a bend in the road, he saw in front of him a terrible scene. A car had come off the road and had ploughed into a tall oak tree. The police and ambulance were already there. As he approached the crash, the local police sergeant came up to him and tried to turn him away. But as the old man's dog had gone up to the wrecked car, he was allowed to go near and retrieve it. The dog now seemed content to sit still and allow his master to get hold of its lead. Curiosity prompted the old man to ask the sergeant what had happened, and he was told that they'd been following the car as it had no tail lights and were just about to pull it over when it had speeded up for no apparent reason, had left the road at the bend and crashed into a tree. The occupants were a young man and a young woman. The young man had been killed instantly, and the young woman was badly hurt. At this moment, the body of the young man was being taken from the wreck, and the old man saw that it was the same young man that had been coming to his gate for the past 3 days. His face was virtually unmarked and bore the same sad and pale look that it had when he'd visited the old man. The old man, on an impulse, asked what the name of the driver was. In confidence, the policeman told him, adding that this information was not for public release until the relatives had been informed. The man's name was Michael, and the young woman was called Sally. He then told the sergeant that the young lady was about to die, as he'd remembered and had suddenly realized the significance of the words that the ghost, for such it must have been, had told him. "Tell Sally I'll see her soon." And sure enough, at that moment, they were interrupted by an ambulance man who said that the girl had just died. The man then asked when the accident had occurred and was not surprised to learn that it had been at 9:45 p.m, at the same time that he had seen the young man at his front gate. When the old man returned home, he told his wife what he had seen and heard, and they both realized that for some unknown reason they'd been singled out to be given a warning of a future disaster. They didn't find out why until a few weeks later, when they received a letter from a distant relative. It informed them that the relative's son and his wife, who'd never met the couple, had decided that as they were going to be in the area, they would visit them and perhaps try to catch a room for a night or two. But they'd been killed when their car had spun off the road and had crashed into a tree. A photograph of the young couple was enclosed with the letter, and written on the back of it were their names, Michael and Sally.